Hi, and welcome back to Perspectives. I'm Ellie Ballard, and in this lecture, I'm going to tell you how to get away with murder. Just kidding. But we will be continuing our conversation on criminal responsibility by exploring justification defenses. With justification defenses, defendants admit committing the offense, but believe that they should not be held criminally responsible because of a legally sufficient justification for their actions. I want you to think of these justifications as negating mens rea. There are 8: self-defense, entrapment, necessity, duress, also called coercion, immaturity, mistake of fact, intoxication, and insanity. Self-defense occurs when a person feeling in immediate danger wards off an attack using physical means. Now, the amount of defensive force used must be reasonable and proportionate to the danger presented. That is, using only the amount of force necessary to protect oneself from harm without exceeding what is necessary in the situation. For example, if someone physically attacks you with their fist, a reasonable response might be to push them away or strike them to stop the attack. However, if you were to use a weapon or continue attacking them after the threat had been neutralized, that would be considered excessive force. So, 2 key points here. The defensive force must be reasonable. The force used should be what a typical person would deem appropriate under similar circumstances. And the defensive force must be proportionate. The level of force should match the threat level. It shouldn't go beyond what is necessary to protect yourself. Entrapment occurs when law enforcement induces a person lacking predisposition to commit a crime that they would not have otherwise committed. For an action to be considered entrapment, it must involve both the idea of the crime originating with law enforcement and the suspect being persuaded or coerced into committing the crime. Consider these 2 examples. I am an undercover police officer. I'm sitting at the bar drinking a martini when you come in and tell me that you've just found a suitcase full of cocaine. You ask me if I want to go down the street with you to see if Jeremy wants to buy it. You tell me you'll split the money with me. So we walk down the street and ask Jeremy if he wants to buy it. Sure enough, Jeremy says yes. Once the transaction is complete, I arrest you. Not entrapment. Now, let's say you're sitting at a bar enjoying a martini and I, an undercover police officer, walk in with a suitcase full of cocaine. I ask you if you want to come down the street with me and sell the suitcase to Jeremy. I say that I'll split the money with you. Sure enough, Jeremy buys the suitcase. Can I arrest you? No, I haven't trapped you. See, the difference is whose idea it was to commit the crime. In the first scenario, the idea to sell the cocaine was yours. You approached me. I was just minding my business, drinking a martini at the bar. In the second scenario, I, the undercover police officer, approached you with the cocaine. The idea for committing that crime originated with me. So entrapment is really this. If I, the police, or an agent of the police, put the idea of a crime into your head, and then you go out and commit the crime, you have been entrapped. Another justification defense, necessity, occurs when a crime is committed to save yourself or prevent some greater harm, like looting during and after Hurricane Maria. As you can see in the picture, they're not walking out with big screen or flat screen TVs. They're leaving with food. The justification of duress or coercion suggests that you committed a crime under the threat of force or other consequence. The justification defense immaturity suggests that children under the age of 7 cannot commit a crime. So children under the age of 7 cannot form the requisite intent due to lack of understanding. Now, between ages 8 and 14, it's typically prosecutorial discretion. Mistake of fact occurs when someone unwittingly commits a crime. Now, it doesn't cover ignorance, but an example would be is that if you're at Starbucks and you throw your cup away, you walk over to the table, you pack up a laptop and you leave, and then later you discover, oh, it's not your laptop, you accidentally picked up the laptop at the table next to you. Can you be too intoxicated to commit a crime? Well, the answer is yes and no. So intoxication as a justification defense typically refers to involuntary intoxication. So perhaps that you were drugged, or maybe you took too much Ambien, the sleep medication. But it means that you are too intoxicated to form intent. Insanity as a justification defense is really this legal concept used in criminal law where a defendant argues that they should not be held responsible for their actions due to a severe mental illness or defect that impaired their ability to understand the nature or wrongfulness of their actions at the time the crime was committed. Now, there are a couple important elements here to look at. First, mental illness or defect. The defendant must be suffering from a significant mental disorder or defect at the time of the crime. And second, the inability to understand wrongfulness means really that the defendant's mental state must have been such that they were unable to understand that what they were doing was wrong. This can mean they didn't understand the nature of their actions or were unable to distinguish right from wrong. Now, different jurisdictions actually use different legal tests to determine insanity. Now, pleading insanity is not as simple as it seems in the media. You actually have to petition a judge to enter a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. A judge will immediately order a psychological evaluation before allowing the defense to proceed. Now, not very many petitions are actually accepted, approximately 10% or so. Even less insanity pleas are actually successful at trial. Some estimate somewhere around less than 1% actually. Okay, thanks for joining me. As always, please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions.